Hello everyone and welcome to installing Arch Linux on our Steam Link. Well, kind of on our Steam Link. Now we'll be running Arch Linux off of a USB stick, plugging it into our Steam Link, allowing us to save the original functionality of the Steam Link. This tutorial is limited to Linux, so if you're looking for a Windows alternative, there may be a couple out there in place of it, but because we're dealing with shell scripts and specific addresses, it is limited to just Linux. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into it. Quick disclaimer, I'm not responsible for the breaking of your device. All of these applications are still in development and are experimental, so not everything will work. Follow this tutorial at your own risk. Now, Arch Linux is pretty much just a minimalistic, highly customizable, quote-unquote cutting-edge Linux distribution known for its rolling release, which means it continuously updates with the latest stable software releases. Now, this is just a different OS we're going to be running off the Steam Link. You actually don't have to use Arch. You can use plenty of other OSs out there if you can find the builds to run off of the Steam Link. Now, this version of Arch Linux that we're going to be installing, this is going to be a non-graphical user interface version of Arch Linux, meaning we only get a terminal. We'll just use SSH to actually run all the commands, and it's going to allow us to keep our original function of the Steam Link if you do the steps that I do. But that's enough for repeating myself. Let's get into some hardware prep and see what we need. For hardware, you're going to need a laptop or desktop running Linux, a 4 to 8 GB USB drive, your Steam Link, power cables for it, an Ethernet cable, and if you want to set it up by itself without the internet, a keyboard, its cables for that, and some way to view the Steam Link, like a monitor or a TV. Just make sure you have all the necessary cables. And that brings us to software prep. There are two possible Arch Linux installs we could use. This one from CodeRobe, or this one from regmebj. Or we're just going to use this one. Link will be in the description below. Now to download it, just hit code and hit download zip and save it to an easily accessible location. Next up, you can either use your inbuilt terminal. You can also download PuTTY if you want, which kind of does the same thing. We're just going to use our inbuilt tools that we have. And that pretty much concludes all the software we need. Let's plug in our USB stick and get on to setting it up. Now, after you plug in your USB stick, we can partition it in two different ways. Go to the partition manager, or if it's already partitioned, under here. In File Explorer, right click, hit Properties. We can see that it's a FAT file system. But just to make sure it's set up correctly, we're going to format. We'll call this Arch Install. You can actually name this whatever you want. We're going to do this as an extension 4 and hit Next. Hit Format and wait for it to finish formatting. And now that's done, just hit the X and go to the newly formatted USB stick. Alright, now that it created its file system, exit out. And here's our USB stick. So now that we've formatted, now we just need to go to where we have our Arch Linux files, unzip them, and they're pretty small, so it should open easily. Then we're going to open it up, find our boot disk creator.sh. Before we go ahead and run the script, why don't we just open it with a text editor to see what it does. Now it's going to print out a couple things. It's going to list our block ID for all of our devices plugged in. It's going to ask us to select a specific device, as we're going to lose anything because it's going to format it. It's pretty much going to reformat our USB stick as an extension 3 this time, and then it's going to mount it and pretty much copy all of these specific files over to it so we can then plug it into the Steam Link. Now that we know what it does, click on these three dots if you have them here and hit Open in Terminal. That's automatically going to change the directory to that location of the files. So you need to sudo bash boot disk creator.sh. Hit the enter button, type in your password if you need to, and here we go. Now here are all of our devices plugged in. Now if you remember, I named our USB stick Arch Install and extension 4. So we are looking for dev sdb1. We're going to type in /dev/sdb1. Now remember, if you pick anything else, it's going to automatically wipe that drive and you're not going to be able to recover anything. So, final warning. All right, now that we have selected this one, we're going to hit the enter button. And we're going to hit yes, just to reconfirm that that is the drive we are proceeding with. Hit the enter button again and let it run its course. Now this is going to take a little bit of time depending on your USB speeds, if you're running it through a virtual machine or any other issues you may have. Alright, and that's it. Now before we move our USB stick, I just want to actually see what files it copied over. Here we have our Steam Link folder. We created that last time. Inside here we have our config folder, system, and we have an enable SSH text file. Alright. And then under that we have factory_test and a run.sh file. So if I understand this correctly, when we boot the Steam Link off the USB stick, just like our Kodi TV, last time we were installing an app, this time it's going to actually run that config, enable SSH for us to view it, and then for factory test, it's going to automatically run that .sh file, opening us into that Arch Linux terminal. And then we can just SSH into it and do whatever we want. All right, so we're going to eject our USB stick, close out of this. You can keep this terminal open, you can clear it and then SSH into it after. I'm just going to make it easier and just open up another page, clear this, and then get ready to SSH into our Steam Link. Let's move over to our Steam Link and run Arch Linux. Heading over to your Steam Link, depending on your setup, you're either going to plug it into power and Ethernet or power, display, and a keyboard if you manually want to add Wi-Fi. Just don't forget to plug in your USB stick to any USB port. After giving your Steam Link some time to boot up, should boot right into the terminal screen, should not boot into the regular Steam OS screen. Go back to your PC and let's SSH in. Now if you have it on Wi-Fi, you will need to set it up and connect it to Wi-Fi on the actual Steam Link itself before we can SSH in. If you have it on Ethernet, you can run Angry IP Scanner or some other IP scanner and find the IP address that way. All right, so here we are back on our PC, type in SSH, and there are two users we can type in, alarm and root. We're gonna do root at our IP address with a port of 22. Now this IP address is gonna be whatever your Steam Link is. Just make sure you do the username of root, yes to fingerprint, and then type in password of root. Now if that doesn't work, your password is going to be steamlink123. Now if that's the case, we're going to SSH through to the Steam Link itself. And it seems like our Arch Linux boot did not actually work. And it's supposed to boot and execute that run.sh script. Doesn't seem like it did. We'll see. Even if the USB mounted, it probably did not. Which means we're going to plug into another USB port on our Steam Link. And we're going to try again. Now some potential issues you may have and their fixes. If you're unable to get the script to run, make sure you're running Linux. If it's not finding your USB stick, if you're on a virtual machine, make sure you actually connect it to the virtual machine. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I was not able to get the Steam Link to run Arch Linux off the USB stick. Could just be the USB stick I was using is not working as well as maybe some others. Maybe there's just a compatibility issue. So maybe try a different USB stick, rerun it. But At the end of the day, this is an old project, so it's not always going to work. Any issues not covered in the video, just comment down below. Alright, so unfortunately I thought this would go differently than it did. If I can find a fix, I'll include it in the video. If there is no fix that I found, unfortunately this is just the end. There's nothing else I can do then. Maybe the next video will be better off than this one. Let me know down in the comment section if you have any other issues besides this one that I can't get to work. And I'll try my best to assist. We still have 1 or 2 more tutorials coming out. We may cover a reflash on the original firmware if you accidentally mess something up. But we may take a look at that, we may not. It's all up to you. If you comment down below, I'll create one. If not, like if you like this, if you dislike it. See you all in the next video.